My name is Catherine Palacios, and today I will be discussing why the death penalty should be allowed. In November of 1934, the still grieving parents of Grace Budd received an excruciatingly gruesome letter, which police later confirmed was written by the serial killer, child rapist, cannibal, Albert Fish. In the letter, he brutally described how he tortured, mutilated, killed, cooked, and ate their 8-year-old daughter. I could not bring myself to share the letter word for word due to the amount of obscenities that were stated so indifferently. I determined that Fish's words did not deserve to be repeated, and honestly, I still struggle with what I read till today. Although Grace Budd was the only conviction against him when he was sentenced to death, it is said that he had previously raped and mutilated many children under the age of 6. He has also claimed to have had children in every state and that the total was well over 100. Albert Fish, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and many others like them are the reason why I firmly believe that the death penalty should be allowed. Although I understand the list of reasons why people want to abolish capital punishment, I think it is important to remember that whatever action we take should be to the sole benefit of the survivors and victims. I sympathize once again with the ones who stand for the preservation and dignity of human life. However, my humanity concludes, despite my reluctance, that the lost life of a child, or any victim for that matter, is well deserving of justice, and sometimes that justice is death. For their sake, and for the safety of our nation, I strive for justice, as I suspect many of you do it too. I also suspect that you value life more over the life of your loved ones, and so if anyone were to threaten that safety, you would do anything in your power to stop that threat. Well, I'm here to tell you that you do have that power, and in supporting the death penalty, you are able to protect your loved ones and ensure that they can live a life without fear. To further my stance, I will be discussing why the death penalty should be allowed for the following reasons. It is just, it deters others from committing the same crimes, and it serves as a defense mechanism. So, we all know justice to be something that is just and kind to every individual. However, it is not. It's a balancing act. If one action tips over one end, the other end has to account for it no matter what. The words that founded our nation observe that we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. From this, we concocted a judiciary system that seeks to interpret the U.S. Constitution on behalf of every individual. Former Attorney General Elliot Ditzer observed that our federal and state constitutions are replete with rights we afford the accused: the right to notice of charges, the right to a speedy and public trial, the right to confront witnesses, the right to counsel, and the right against self-incrimination. We as a society have made a profound commitment to avoid punishing the innocent. Thus, we have determined that these are instances when the crimes are so egregious that society's ultimate punishment, the death penalty, may be appropriate. Albert Fish was granted these rights. However, when he decided to abuse those rights and impede on someone else's right to life, he immediately forfeited his. Where is the justice in Fish living out the rest of his life? Meanwhile, Grace Budd's life was cut brutally short, treated as an animal for the slaughter, now only remaining as a memory in our minds. This is why I believe that capital punishment should not only be allowed, it should be necessary, because some crimes are simply too horrific that any other punishment, including life in a cage, is insufficient. Now that I've told you about the justice behind the death penalty, I will be discussing the deterrence behind the death penalty. After hours of research, it seems that most people have concluded that there is no correlation between the two. However, I beg to differ. Two of the safest countries in the world are Japan and Singapore. These two countries have some of the lowest crime rates in the world. Singapore, in particular, prescribes the death penalty for a wide range of offenses. Moreover, in recent years, it is only known to have been imposed for drug trafficking, murder, and firearm offenses, all of which carry a mandatory death sentence. Although I may not agree with mandatory death sentences without a due process, there is no denying that Singaporean crime rates are low because of their severe death penalties by hanging. Federal, state, and local officials need to recognize that the death penalty saves lives. How capital punishment affects murder rates can be explained through general deterrence theory, which supposes that increasing the risk of apprehension and punishment for crime deters individuals from committing crime. I suspect the only reason why the death penalty does not deter as much crimes here in the US is because criminals are not afraid. They either take advantage of the rights granted as a US citizen or are not afraid in the manner in which they are executed by lethal injection. Or frankly, the reason why our crime rates are exponentially higher is because the criminals in Singapore simply do not get a chance to reoffend. Now that I've told you about the deterrence behind the death penalty, I will be talking about the defense that takes place because of the death penalty. The final reason I support the death penalty is on the basis of defense. I believe life is sacred, and so it cheapens the life of an innocent murder victim to say that society has no right to keep the murderer from ever killing again. In my view, society has not only the right but the duty to act in self-defense to protect the innocent. In a study done by the Bureau of Justice Statistics in 2018, an estimated 68% of released prisoners were arrested within 3 years, 79% within 6, and 83% within 9. After knowing the reoffense rate, it would be outright immoral not to act on behalf of the safety of our society. According to legal director of the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation, Kent Schedeger, the death penalty serves two functions. First, for some crimes, any lesser punishment is inadequate as a matter of basic justice. Second, an executed death sentence absolutely guarantees the killer will never kill again. A life sentence does not. There are many cases of people killed by murderers who were paroled, escaped, killed within prison, or who arranged murders from within the prison. If Fish had not been sentenced to death, he could have easily preyed on Grace Budd's younger sister Beatrice or brother Albert, which was his intended victim. The death penalty ensures that these men never get a chance to hurt anyone else to fulfill their selfish urges. Ultimately, I strongly believe that the death penalty saves lives, and the lives of those who have not even breathed their first breath, and it is done so on the basis of justice, deterrence, and defense. Even though I struggled with this topic, I found myself struggling more with the thought of a criminal getting the chance to reoffend. This is why I can peacefully say that that justice was served when Albert Fish was executed by electric chair on January 16th, 1936. I understand that his death does not bring Grace Budd back, and I understand there might not be closure for the Budd family. However, I think the Budd family could sleep a little sounder that night. I believe Fish, Bundy, Gacy all had a valuable life. However, that value left the moment their victims drew their last breath. Furthermore, I firmly believe that we as a civilized society should not be troubled or concerned with the preservation of a criminal that was not troubled or concerned with the preservation of their victim. As one peace officer observed, to give up on the death penalty would mean to give up on justice for crime victims. The prisoners currently on California's death row have murdered more than 1,000 people. Of those, 229 were children, 43 were peace officers, and 294 of those victims were sexually assaulted and tortured. I leave you all with this final thought. Justice can take many forms, and in this dire situation, justice is sometimes death. And as Benjamin Franklin once stated, justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. Thank you.